Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Real Estate Podcast with myself and Mr. Tucker Merrihew. Today's going to be a fun one, you guys. I think especially for me because Seattle sports is in an awesome place. I'm excited to brag about that for a few minutes here. And obviously hear about Tucker, what he has going on down there, talk about the client wins, doing our biggest workshop ever this week. A lot of cool, exciting things happening. So before I brag about the Mariners and the Seahawks, Tucker, anything you want to say about Colorado got a big win.
Colorado did get a big win. Oregon got beat by Indiana. That was probably unexpected. Not that I'm a huge Oregon football fan, but I think the whole world expected them to roll and win that game. But Colorado did get a win. Deion's hanging on by a thread
to his limbs.
Figuratively and literally. Which was cool to see. But yeah, college football is definitely awesome. But I will say I don't want to expand the show too long before we talk about what is probably the most pressing thing on your mind, which is the Mariners have been rolling. Not only did they win, but they've been rolling the last couple of nights before this as well.
Yeah, I think the Oregon one, I have a good buddy who's a really big fan. The Indiana coach, that guy is a stud.
He's a man of few words. Very kind of quirky, strange dude, but he got his guys ready to play in Autzen, and they definitely beat him. No question.
Yeah, there was no question of who was the better team that day. That's for sure. But besides Ohio State, college football is interesting because there's no clear, hey, this, I feel like for so long it was Alabama, Georgia, LSU, like they were going to go undefeated around the table. No one was going to touch them. And now it's like, but Ohio State still kind of has that vibe this year, but it's really like, I like, there's way more, as much as I don't love like parts of the NIL stuff, I do love the part that like the only barrier of entry now for all these schools to get good players is just money. Like they just need a couple of good donors. And it's like they have to choose the right players to pay. And if they do, things go well. If they don't, like look at Michigan. Michigan paid the Bryce Underwood kid like an insane amount of money to get him to decommit and commit there. But he hasn't really played out the way that they thought he was going to. So it's fascinating. But yeah, the Mariners are freaking rolling. My brother actually solo, he's such a big Mariners fan. He's been waiting until he's 30. He's been waiting his whole life for this, that he's been going to every game. So he flew to Toronto himself to go to the last two games. And then he's called me. He's like, I'm willing to empty out the savings to go to every single one of these games. So, yeah, that's a depiction of how hungry I think Seattle fans are for a sports team to make a dent. And yeah, Mariners are up 2-0 and Palm Seahawks got a good away win. It's freaking crazy. You're so used to the Pacific Northwest, all the teams sucking.
Yeah, usually that's the way it has been. Just like I thought that I read this, but the Mariners have they ever been to the World Series?
Nope.
So they've never won the pennant and advanced, but they've been to let's call it the semifinals of the pennant,
the conference champion, the league championship is what they call it.
Yeah, they've been to that, but they've never won and moved on to. Okay, well, they're up 2-0. They got to get 4 wins and then they advance. So they've won in convincing fashion the last couple nights against the Blue Jays. So, and I'm assuming your brother flew there and went to both those games then.
Yeah, he flew out himself, went to both those games. Yeah, he's nuts.
Got his passport ready because you got to go to Toronto. He
called me out because the Mariners won 15 innings against the Tigers in that game 5 on Friday. And he called me the next morning. He was like, hey, have you ever been to Toronto? And I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, well, I'm getting on a plane. You want to come? And I'm like, I can't get on a plane to Toronto for 3 days to watch the Mariners. I like baseball. I like Seattle sports, but I don't have the passion that he does.
I kind of like watching it on TV too. It's nice. You got your own area, couch, whatever it is. Although I would say I would fly back. I'm not in any hurry to go back to Portland. But if the Blazers did go to the NBA Finals,
finals.
The finals, I would fly back. Now, because I've seen them, when I was a kid, I saw them in the finals and I saw them in the, conference championship, and went back when they had like Clyde Drexler and even back in the early 2000s when they were the Jailblazers, and we made it to the conference finals against the Lakers. I went to one of those games as well, but I would fly back for an NBA Finals game, that's for sure, because that city would go batshit crazy if they ever won again, which doesn't look promising in any sort of the near future.
That city, That city's going batshit crazy every day.
Oh my God. It just keeps going and
I
going
saw
and
the
going.
naked protest. There's a
Oh, did
naked
you see
protest.
the naked bike
That
ride?
was
Yeah.
crazy, dude. The
Um,
naked bike ride.
yeah, and they're not pretty people. I mean, we're not
No.
talking like a city full of beautiful people. We're talking like those that probably should not be naked. And it was like raining. So then you got this like drenched, naked, like dudes riding around on bikes with their junk hanging out and not attractive gals riding around naked on bikes. And it's just, I'm like, who wakes up in the morning and is like, yeah, we're going to go do the naked bike ride today. That sounds awesome in the rain in Portland. But they've done it every year. This year apparently was bigger than the last few because they got something to protest about as well. But holy moly, that's it's something, man. Don't go watch the videos online
I
if you
I ran
haven't
into I
already.
ran into a few of them, and I'm like, "Oh, it's actually a naked." There's one in Seattle too. I remember they have some kind of naked bike right there, but it's crazy to me that there's actually people that wake up and like, "I'm gonna spend my weekend riding. I'm gonna spray paint my body and ride around naked and protest like that." It's just I don't
Well, the
understand it.
bold ones, they don't even spray paint their body. They just go in the nude with no body paint or anything covering their, bits and pieces. So it's
Uh,
it, it's an interesting place, man.
to each their own. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we've had actually at the time of recording this afternoon, we're doing our biggest workshop ever. Usually once a month, we bring one of our clients on, and we do a workshop on what's working right now to find deals. Usually they run about 2 to 3 hours, and this evening we have our biggest one to date by far. So I'm excited for that, and a lot of client wins rolling in. So on my end, business wise, things are cruising. There's obviously pros and cons, and I think we talk a lot about the show that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and obviously it's not for us either. Anytime you have an organization with 100 plus people and a lot of clients, there's obviously constant fires that you're putting out. But how are things on your end? Are you looking for more deals right now, or are you right now just kind of executing on the
No,
ones that you have?
I'm good with what we've got on our plate at the moment. And gearing up for season. Like this week, I've got people in our rental houses from Germany, Italy, and Vegas. So I guess Vegas is like you know, the more vanilla one. But every week kind of from here until end of April next year, it kind of looks like that in terms of, people from all over the world coming in. And so our job is to, it's a big job to like run a lot of these rental, vacation rental houses as well, right? So it's kind of like it's a different facet of the business, but during season, like I mentioned before, that's when you make a lot of your money in these houses. So I'm kind of waiting for the market to figure itself out before we go dump capital into more stuff. And at the moment, running these rental properties, it takes up enough of my time that we're not running a large wholesale operation or anything like that in addition to that, right? So kind of picking and choosing what I want to do at the moment. And since we've got 3 years deep into all of these rentals, we've got pretty stacked up calendars, and they pull in really, really good money during season, month after month. So it's like running a very profitable wholesale business, at
Mhm.
least for that time of year.
It's like seasonal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Gotta kinda take advantage of where it is. What is like for you, I guess, I think I put a lot of content out, so if, like, our audience knows, like, kinda what we're building in Easy Button, but what is, like, your vision in Naples for what you're doing, like, fast forward 5 years? Like, are you just building bigger and bigger
Yeah, I
houses?
think
Like,
so.
what does it look like?
And this is the thing that I've really kind of discovered is you can't fast forward building these large money relationships, right? In a new market. And when I say large, like, you know, 3, 4, $5 million in Portland went a long way. I'm talking like 15, 20, $30 million type relationships here, for whether it be private lending, family office partnerships, whatever it is, right? And so to do that, because we're not the new kids in town anymore, but we're still newer compared to a lot of the guys that have been just here doing these, 20 to $80 million single families that they're selling in the most expensive parts of Naples. So we need kind of a flagship project to really kind of springboard us to the next level of that, right? And so right now, that one that we're in the process of building, that's kind of I look at that as our flagship. Like, okay, we built a number of other ones here, but they weren't cheap houses, but they're not the ones that are going to put you on the map with the big money people, right? And so this one, I think, it will get it in the magazines here and some other stuff, and it'll just propel us. It'll put us
Yeah.
back to where our brand was in the Northwest when we left, or at least, most of the way there. And then at that point, the snowball will really start rolling a little more in terms of, the money relationships that we've been able to create here. And then we can kind of parlay that into doing bigger and bigger projects. When I say bigger, I mean just more expensive, right? And so that's the goal. By the time, 5 years from now, I would like us to be building almost exclusively, in downtown Naples and Port Royal, and, 15 million finished price up to 50 million finished price of the houses. So that's kind of the goal.
Well, 50 million. What is before moving to today's segment, what are the economics on a $50 million new construction? Like I guess for like, what would you have to pay for that lot? What would construction, I know it's obviously projecting because it's speculation at this point, but I feel like, well, like what does that look like in terms of economics to build that?
It's, you're probably, let's call it 12, 14 million on the lot. People spend stupid money on the build, so it's really kind of an arbitrary thing, but I think you could probably if you went buck wild and crazy, you might spend $8 million on the build. And so and that's on the higher end, of range of what I just quoted, of course. On 15 million, you're probably spending like 3 million on the dirt, and then maybe another 3.5, 4 on the build. And so you've still got, this substantial margin there. So that's kind of where we're going. That's the direction that I want to go to. But I want to do it the right way. I want to do it with partnerships with family offices and, capital partners. So I'm not burying myself in $20 million worth of debt on one project that I'm servicing while we're building and everything else. Right. So, because that can get very expensive very quickly. And that's what makes the business super stressful. And you don't have to do it that way. You can do it with capital partners that they have a shit ton of money that they have to put to work. And obviously they get a great return for it, but it just makes doing these super high end development projects far less stressful on the builder and developer themselves, which would be me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably where a lot of the pressure comes from. Well, probably why a lot of people don't touch those price ranges is probably because of the capital relationships that you have to not make it like, just our carrying costs are $500,000 a month.
Yeah, and it takes time to create that level of capital relationships. It's you can get to that whatever you need a lot quicker, and markets where you're topping out at $5 million or $6 million. I mean, the one that we're building right now will be probably 6-ish million when we're done with it. So, but we just are internally funding ourselves to do that one. So that's not hard to get to. And even if you needed to raise capital to do some of that, that's not a big deal either in comparison. But yeah, the bigger numbers, there's just less places that you can go for it, right? And those people that have it are conditioned to work with people that they trust to use it, right? Even more so than smaller lenders. So we're climbing the ladder slowly but steadily and doing the types of projects that we need to do now moving forward to kind of proof ourselves to that world. And so that's the path, I guess, for everybody listening and for yourself that I'm hoping that we kind of stay on over the next 5 years.
That's badass. That's super cool. Well, guys, we're going to transition into today's episode of our, kind of call it our TTTT segment, which is our trending topics that Tucker's going to talk about.
That's a whole lot of T's. Yeah.
And today, the first one is something that comes up often is kind of what is the ethical line in the business in your opinion, with negotiating with sellers? Because there's that something went viral last week, and I got tagged in it on like my opinion from one of our clients, Mike DeHaan in Spokane, who runs a big coaching group, is, I wouldn't say a massive influencer, but has a lot of influence. And the topic was, this guy driving around, he's one of the popular coaching gurus in this space, saying, hey, just lock a deal up, whether you think you can close or not, and go back and negotiate. Or even if you do get under contract and you sell it and you're wholesaling it, still go back and renegotiate, try to make your fee bigger, even if it's for no reason. What do you think in your opinion, is like, where is the ethical line? Because I think a lot of regulations coming from this stuff, like, where do you think the ethical line is in terms of negotiation versus taking advantage of a seller in a situation?
I think it really starts with intent, right? Like, what's the intent of the reason why you're putting it under contract, right? If you were the one example that you mentioned where like I have a feeling I know which, it could, well, let's play pick your guru. It could be any number of them. But just go put it under contract, throw some shit at the wall, see if you can move it, right? The intent there is just that, right? And so I have a problem with that because you're basically telling somebody to go do something when they don't know how to truly value the asset that they're supposed to be an expert in, which is why these people are listening to them and allowing them to put it under contract. And I think that probably is a big reason why there's a lot of regulations and people looking at stuff, in our space and saying that doesn't seem right. But on the flip side, we'd put a number. I mean, virtually everything we ever put under contract or have put under contract, it always comes with the caveat of the ability to renegotiate as needed, right? Now, as needed for us, I always said there was only two reasons that we would renegotiate, right? I can give you the price that I think it's worth today, or tell you the price that I think it's worth today and offer you that based on everything that I can see. What I can't dictate are the things that I can't see, right? And so, in the Northwest, those big items are usually like sewer line, oil tank, stuff that's underground. But then there's also, the potential of issues with the city or permitting or, something that's going on that they didn't permit correctly or whatever it is that you find kind of within the paperwork, of the property itself. I would, but always be very crystal clear with people about that and just be like, hey, look, there's 2 or 3 areas that I can't see into right now. And so depending on what's in those areas, it may adjust what it is that we're able to pay. If there's no issues in any of those areas, then what the number is, right? But we always prided ourselves in, or I have, and everybody that's worked for me over the years, in trying to be as upfront as possible about what it is that you can do for people. The problem is that a lot of jokers in this business are not, right? And so, especially when there's a lot of competition, or multiple people, trying to go after one property, the sellers will often just take what they consider to be the best offer at the moment, even though there's been plenty of times where we know they took it from somebody that is going to do exactly what you just described,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And so those are the times that it gets really irritating. You're like, shit. Like, we're doing the right thing, we're being ethical, and then we're getting cut out of these deals. It doesn't matter how good of a salesperson you are. If somebody tells them they're going to pay them substantially more money, it doesn't matter. All of the time, it doesn't matter because that's the only thing that most sellers are hearing, at least on the front end, right? What are you going to pay me? What are you going to pay me? And so that always kind of bothered me a little bit. But we never changed how we did business because of it. But it's just kind of, I guess, part of the business, unfortunately. So that's how we would go at it. I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are, but that's kind of how we went at it. And I never felt, I never had problems sleeping at night or felt like I took advantage of anybody because, whatever I told them is what I told them. And that's what we closed when we closed. And if we had to adjust price, it was only based on those things that we couldn't see.
Yeah, I wouldn't answer it much differently. And I feel like that's why we've been able to be business partners for so long, is I feel like if we saw that differently on something like that, it would extrapolate across how we do business altogether. I think it's one of those things that it's a lot of its intent. Like when if I'm being honest, in my first year in business, when I was 19 years old, I wasn't that good at underwriting yet. And our contract to close percentage was probably 50, 60%. And there was probably some deals where I just offered a number that I thought maybe could work. And we had to go back and renegotiate. I was never selling a deal and then going back and renegotiating to make my assignment feel a little bigger. But I mean, I think everyone goes through season early on when you're learning, where you make mistakes. I think it's on us as operators to get better as we get more experienced. And I do think like your goal should be you have 100% certainty. If everything the seller is describing to you is as advertised as what they say, I think you need to stick to your number. And if you do need to renegotiate, you go back to them and say, hey, I screwed up. I made a mistake. We'll let you out of the agreement, but here's what we would need to have happen to push this through. So I agree with you on all of that. I think the big one is the last one you said, which I call like bounce back deals, where someone offers, you know exactly what they're doing. Someone's doing the exact strategy you're trying not to do. And I always have told people, just wait for it to bounce back. It's usually going to bounce back. And a lot of times it gives you more leverage with the seller. You say, yeah, we told you that was going to happen, and stick to your guns on that. So I think we're very aligned on that topic. And you guys out there that are listening, I think to simplify it, kind of like, how would you treat your grandma? How would you want someone to treat your grandma if they were buying her home, or your grandpa or your grandparents, and try to fall in line with that?
The problem with the bounce back thing is, and I agree with that. I think that's pretty much the only thing you can do, right? But most of the time, the guys that do that, they have like 2 or 3 days between the end of their inspection period and closing, right? So, and they do that for a reason, because it gives them as much leverage as possible once they bounce back and they lower that price, because they're like, look, we can stay on schedule and you get your money in 3 days, and we renegotiate price, or the deal blows up, right? And so they know that a lot of these sellers will just say, oh, screw it, whatever, I'll eat 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever the number is, just to stay on schedule. And so that, I don't know, it's a tough deal. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's just kind of part of the business, I think, overall. But you'll run, if you do enough direct to seller stuff, you'll run into plenty of sellers that just enjoy dealing with you if you're good, at what you do, and you run a good business, and you're a good negotiator, but a clean negotiator. And they'll just want to deal with you, and that'll be it, right? They feel like the number's fair. They like the way you do business, and that's that. And so those are always the people that we really enjoyed working with the most.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's a question that comes up every single time we have a live call, because someone's outbidding them on a deal, and it's hard to stick to your guns. But I think long term you win, because I've seen it happen where you get put in a news article because a seller goes to the attorney general about you trying to renegotiate a deal a day before closing. And I think it's one of the things that's pushing on regulations and groups to go to city councils and the governor, attorney general, and try to figure out a way to give sellers more protection, which is what it's all for at the end of the day. So that is today's show. You guys out there listening, we're really trying to keep it, like, I think, to do a fair shake on all these topics, and there's a ton we want to get through. We'll spend 10, 15 minutes every single show on these topics. So if you guys are enjoying the new format, the feedback I've gotten so far has been great from you guys. As you know, we don't grow this through paid ads. Our podcast only grows to you telling people organically. So keep doing that. It's appreciated. Let us know who you want to see, what you want to see, how we can help better these shows to help you in your business day to day. That's what these are for. If you haven't checked out, one call out today, if you haven't checked out our off-market method community, it's growing. There's about 600 people in there now, and there's accountability groups, weekly live calls, and much more. That link is below the show. And then if you want to work with our team, with you and your company one-on-one, and more of a growth partner role, you can check out Easy Button Real Estate below as well. And until next time, you're only one deal away.